You're on two files, 231368FH. That's for sentencing on a probation violation. We also have a 24135537FH. That's sentencing on the new aggravated stalking charge. Prosecution and defense, was the pre-sentence investigation report timely made available to you?
It was, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And Mr. Wahlberg, it's my understanding that Ms. Kroll would like to address the court.
Yes, Your Honor. The victim would like to address the court before the court goes to sentence.
Okay. Ms. Kroll, you can come forward. All right, and just state your name for the record, please.
Tammy Kroll.
Okay, now's your opportunity to address the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for allowing me to speak, not only for myself, but for the women before me who didn't have a voice, and for the women after me. I want to thank the police departments in the county and state for responding, for serving and protecting me and my children. Thank you to the PA's team for all the work prosecuting this felon, and for answering all of my questions. They really were great. Your Honor, I stand here to say that no woman should have to go through what I went through with Mr. Tesla. The relationship was toxic and volatile with emotional abuse, mental abuse, manipulation, and control. Mr. Tesla will not take no for an answer. And because of that, he brought high levels of fear into my life and my children's lives. Before I met Mr. Tesla, I never had to lock my door. I never looked over my shoulder. I never held my breath when strange cars pulled into my driveway. I never owned a gun to protect myself and my children. After I found Mr. Tesla in my basement one night while going down to do laundry, and the fact that he returned the next night while my children and I slept, that all changed. He came right into my bedroom, right past my sleeping children, and went through my things while I was asleep. Not only did I get a no contact PPO, block him and his number from all my media accounts and devices, but I also bought a gun. I've been trained to shoot since I was a teenager, and I trained all of my children. I also had to put deadbolts on barricades on my doors. I still cringe when vehicles pull into my driveway just to turn around. Because Mr. Tesla used fake identities and profiles, plus the new Text Now app, I had to privatize all my social medias. I block any and all strangers that try to contact me because it could be him. I even stopped dating altogether for a period of time because I didn't trust any man. Mr. Tesla is a narcissist and a psychopath. You might ask, what is a psychopath? That's a person characterized by a personality disorder marked by a lack of empathy, remorse, guilt for their actions, often associated with violent tendencies, typically manipulative, deceitful, and very controlling. Mr. Tesla takes no accountability for his actions. He blames his victims. Your Honor, it's really sad to see a man with such a promising future, a man very talented in many things, end up this way. But he did, and it's all due to the choices he made at his own free will. No one twisted his arm and told him to enter my house illegally, to violate the PPO given to him, to pick up the phone and call me multiple times, plus leave the creepiest voicemail I have ever heard. A voicemail designed to instate fear. No one put a gun to his head and forced him to violate his probation multiple times and commit similar felonies against another woman in another state. No, Your Honor, these were all choices that Mr. Tesla made on his own accord. These choices and the fact that they thought they were good, they were okay, they were the right thing to do, tells everyone that Mr. Tesla cannot be trusted to do what is right. Mr. Tesla put me and my children, women before me and women after me, through hell, all because he knows better than everyone and he doesn't have to abide by society's laws or even common sense. And that is not normal. Your Honor, immediately following being served the no contact PPO, Mr. Tesla violated it not once, not twice, but multiple times. Immediately following being released from jail the first time, he violated his probation not once, not twice, but multiple times, committing felonies while violating. Your Honor, Mr. Tislaw lives as though he is above the law, and the laws and guidelines do not apply to him. He blames everyone but himself for being where he is today. Mr. Tislaw was told at his previous sentencing that if he violated his probation, he would spend the 5 years behind bars. He not only violated it, but he violated it numerous times and without a thought of the consequences, believing he would get away with it. Your Honor, it's by the grace of God that I stand here, fighting not only for myself, but for the women before me, one who actually moved to an unknown destination without telling people just to get away from him, but also for the women in front of me. I know, based on Mr. Teslaw's past, that he will continue to act and behave this way. No woman deserves to go through the hell that I have been through. No woman should fear a man because he can't take no for an answer. No woman deserves to be controlled or manipulated, abused or stalked ever in her life. I lived this nightmare, as I said, by the grace of God. And I'm still standing, fighting to protect others from what I've been through. Your Honor, Mr. Tislaw is a dangerous man. If he broke into my house with my children present, violating all the laws that protect people, what's going to stop him from doing something worse? What if the next time the woman tells him no, he stalks her to find she's moved on with another man? And what's going to stop him from committing something that's even far worse? Your Honor, perhaps that thought scenario is untrue, but what if it isn't? Your Honor, I'm asking you, begging you, if I need to, that you sentence Mr. Tislaw to the maximum punishment possible. He has proven that nothing else will work. Please, Your Honor, protect me, my children, and women in the future by locking this man up for a very long time. I want all my contact information deleted from his devices. And probably not just mine, but all of women's. Your Honor, the Bible tells us to forgive as Christ has forgiven me, and I forgive Mr. Tislaw. But the Bible also states to mark those that despitefully use you, and I have marked him by blocking him from my life. I want nothing to do with him. Your Honor, please use your wise judgment to protect us. Even if it means Mr. Tislaw gets the mental help that he needs while incarcerated, this behavior is not normal. A like sentence will not work for him. Please give him the maximum sentence possible. Thank you for allowing me to speak and listening to me.
Thank you for coming today. All right, Ms.
This courtroom isn't just about sentencing. It's about survival, fear, and a woman who stood tall against a man she calls a narcissist and a psychopath. Today, the judge must decide the fate of Rodney Tesla, a man already on probation for stalking, now facing new felony charges after allegedly breaking into the victim's home, sneaking past her sleeping children, and violating a no-contact order. Tammy Crawl's voice isn't just for herself. It's for every woman who's been silenced, stalked, or terrified into submission. And what makes this even more shocking? The defense says Tesla isn't prison material. But after hearing what this victim endured, the basement incident, the fake identities, the voicemail designed to instill fear, you'll wonder if this courtroom is the only place left that can stop him. Stay with us, because what the judge says at the end might just restore your faith in justice or break it completely.
Frisbee, have you had the opportunity to read the report and discuss it with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
I do not.
Is there anything that you'd like to say on his behalf?
I would, Your Honor. First of all, when we were negotiating plea in this matter, the guidelines we came up with were 0 to 11. I spoke with Mr. Zero, and I think he scored that initially before this went to his supervisor, the sentencing people, and they came up with 5 to 23, and they're recommending prison term. But I don't think that Mr. Tesla is really prison material. I know I and speaking with him, and I've spoken a lot with him. The communications have been beyond anything that I've ever experienced in my 30 years as an attorney. but with text messages and that sort of thing. But I know he's learned his lesson about probation and PPO type things. In his defense, when he went on the previous domestic, when he went from here to Kent County, I don't think he even signed his, the piece of paper they say where you understand your terms of probation, you can have a search without any warrants, that kind of stuff. I don't think he ever signed that. And his probation term is, I think, by putting his property, but he never actually got them. So, and they must have been lost somewhere in the transfer when he went down to Kent County, and he didn't have his terms of probation. So in his defense, I understand that ignorance of the law is not a defense, but I just like the court to be aware of that. When he thought the PPO had expired, when it actually rolled over, and that's when he contacted her. And the contact issue is that, I mean, the things that she talked about the previous case, in this instance, there was no physical contact, no direct threats issued. He was just trying to contact her to say, hello, kind of thing. He never actually spoke to her, never had any physical contact whatsoever. So those are things I'd like the court to take into consideration. Also, in this case, Mr. Tesla, without consulting with me first, sent a memo to the prosecutor, to the court. I got a copy of it too, where he confessed to what happened. In the first paragraph of the memo that he had dictated to a friend to send out with a full confession, because he wanted the truth to be told. And he's been, truthful with me about this entire time that we've been in communication. So it kind of, rendered me no viable defense at that point, but so he pled, and nonetheless, he's been truthful with me and the prosecutor and the court, and cooperative throughout this instance. If you look at the pre-sentence report, I've never seen a compass score quite like that. I know you rely sometimes on the compass score, but everything is not applicable, unlikely. I mean, I think everything on that, and I think that speaks highly. I know that you rely on it sometimes if you take that into consideration as well. Now, the only thing in my client's record is that prior stalking, no other misdemeanors or no juvenile record. So he also had not had any contact with Ms. Cole for almost 3 years to the day today. So while he's been incarcerated, he's received 9 Bible certifications, and he's actually teaching the Bible study now. He has a BA in education and a minor in religion, and he actually attended 3 years of seminary school too, which I don't think was listed in the PSI. And just lastly, as a courtesy, my client wanted me to mention that he has personal property that was either seized or left at Ms. Cole's house. And he would like the court to order that the property be returned to him. But if not, if the court believes that he must pursue civil remedies for that, there needs some kind of provision in the probation that will allow him to file a suit without having some kind of contact in that regard, or do it by Zoom or whatever, just something that will allow him to pursue civil remedies if he thinks he needs to do so. And I've already executed the advice of rights.
That was one of the most powerful victim statements we've seen in this Courtroom series. Tammy Crawl didn't just list events. She walked us through a psychological war zone. Imagine finding your stalker in your basement, only to have him return the next night. Her life shifted from peace to paranoia, and still, she had the strength to stand in court, face him, and ask for the maximum sentence. What stands out is her control, both emotional and literal. She trained her children to shoot. She armed herself. She installed barricades, deadbolts, and changed her entire digital footprint because Rodney Tesla simply couldn't take no for an answer. The system gave him a chance of probation, and he spit in its face. Would you feel safe knowing he's free?
All right, Mr. Tisla, have you had the opportunity to read both of these reports and discuss them with Ms. Frisbee?
Both of the reports, Your Honor.
Needed report for probation violation, and there's the PSI for the new case.
Yes.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No.
Anything that you want to say on your own behalf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, sir.
I respect what Ms. Kroll had to say, and I'd like to take a few minutes, if I may. I'm sure you've seen a lot of cases, Your Honor, and I have to think this is something of an enigma. I'm 62 years old. I've never faced something like this before. I've never owned a firearm, never had an issue with alcohol or drugs, and never harmed anyone, ever, male, female, ever, to a person. And now suddenly we have two issues in two different states, and I know what that looks like, both in Indiana and in Michigan. There are some discrepancies that I'd like to address about the first one here in Michigan. Because yes, I do want the truth to come out. When the police first called me, that's exactly what I did, is I told them everything, which is why they gave me out. So she'll give me just a minute. The police body camera does not line up with what was actually written in the report. The body camera footage actually shows Ms. Kroll saying, Rodney would never hurt me. He is not that kind of person. I know that that's not what's being said now, and I want to own up to my part of all of this too in the process of dealing with this. I just want that to be clear because that's really important to me. On that police body camera video, and the footage actually shows that we were in a relationship. Tammy shows the officer text messages, loving text messages, and a ring that I had actually sent her in a text message, which she shows him proudly. And when he finds out when it was, he seems surprised, like, oh, this was last night? So it was odd that it was in the written police report that there was no relationship, that it had ended 2 weeks earlier. In those messages, there's also 3 different opportunities where where there's discussed things that we were going to take part in the future. So there's not only a relationship, there was an ongoing relationship. I'd like to address just a few other things. The idea of the belongings, I'm not really taking, I would not risk going to court. The small claims to get my things back. My only point is, I find it odd that if she feels this strongly against me, that these things were not returned, or even that they were kept when I kept asking for them. Especially things like my mother's clothing. I was very fond of this person and trusted Ms. Kroll. I shared with her after my mom passed about 30 different items of clothing for her to have. The main thing I wanted back for my family was the piano lamp. Yeah, my main question is, why keep those things? Especially my mom's things. Then there was, yes, a PPO taken out against me after this. It was taken out 9 days after the event, which again I found was odd. And in the preliminary examination, I'm only talking about things that she's addressed. I'm not trying to belabor the point, just things that she's addressed that don't line up to me, and that is, why is it that all of a sudden after 9 days did she want to take out a PPO against me? And she was upset and said that she had seen me dating somebody else that weekend. And the next day took out a PPO against me. The following day, I was arrested. And suddenly, all the boxes were checked on that PPO. Every box of anything possible that I could be doing that would be violent. That's when it seemed to suddenly change. A few months later, when there was a PPO against me, I sent her a package. I was wrong. It was stupid. I don't have any excuses. I sent her coffee cups and some dishes, and if that struck fear into her like I heard this morning, I apologize. I know that she called the police afterward. There was a report about that, and they told her to throw it away, don't open it. She did open it. It just didn't strike me as even then that she was this afraid of me as a person. 2.5 years go by. Okay, and now we have 2 different instances in Indiana and here in Michigan. I hope you had time to see that there was a police report that I took out just before this incident happened in Indiana. First, I have to say that Tracy Parada, who lives in Indiana, I adore her. I would do anything for her. When she was fired from her job, I loaned her over just about $2,000 to help with bills and things. She's in 5 accidents, car accidents, well, in the 2 years that I knew her, and I helped her with that. So there were some things going on there, and I tried to separate myself from the relationship, and things got out of control. She kept showing up at my house unannounced, crawled into bed with me at night several times. I should have called the police at this point. I didn't. Then the weekend before this incident in Indiana, she entered my house without a key. My roommate was there. I wasn't. And she spent about 4 hours on her computer taking pictures and contacting people on Facebook. My computer is unlocked. So is my phone. And she was contacting people, and from Facebook, there became a problem. Somebody had hacked my account. It somehow had been compromised, and over the next few days, almost $7,000 was taken out of my account. I absolutely knew that it was not Tracy, but I knew that it had been compromised because she was on it. And so at that point, I finally called the police and made a report and reported all of these things, and but didn't want to do anything to hurt Tracy. She was not a part of the money, so, and it was proven to be fraud because the money was given back to me. And where did that bring me to? Oh, just I had to get the computer wiped clean, which was a pain, and I had to buy a brand new phone, and she wanted to talk, and I didn't want her to come back here. Your Honor, I made another incredibly poor choice, and on Friday night, I went down to go see her and talk to her. I was wrong. Yeah, thank you. And I went there and we talked. Actually, that didn't happen. She wanted to talk ahead of time, and I brought all the stuff with me, and we didn't talk. And she told me that I didn't need to come to the front door because there's a camera on there. She left us in a voicemail to me, and but I didn't go to her front door. And anyway, I was then the police were called, and with all that had happened in Michigan at my house, I was bewildered about how that could happen with me. And police came with guns drawn. And now I understand the severity of what it is that was going on. I knew it all the time, Your Honor. And a few days later, when I'm back in Michigan, why in the world would I contact Ms. Kroll after that? I don't have an excuse except to say I couldn't imagine what was going on, and I wanted to understand better my part in all of this. And I did call her. I did not leave a message. Your Honor, she called me back. Doesn't excuse anything. I sent her a text that said, it's been 2 years. It's okay. It's been 2 years. I'd like to talk if you would. You have no idea how I regret doing that. I was in a place where I just was bewildered and I wanted to understand better. In my last 6 months, I've had some time to think about this. And I'm sure you're wondering, is anything like this ever going to happen again? How could it possibly happen again? I cannot afford to do anything like this. I know what the stakes are. If anything like this were to happen again, I'm looking at years in prison. At my age, I can't afford that.
Now contrast that with the defense's take. He's not prison material. Really? His lawyer praises Tesla's Bible studies, seminary background, and self-authored confession letter, as if a resume of repentance can erase years of calculated intimidation. But let's be clear, this isn't about religious rebranding. This is about repeated, deliberate choices to violate court orders, ignore boundaries, and instill fear. The attempt to shift blame to a technicality about not signing probation terms is telling. It's a smokescreen. Whether he signed the paper or not, he was told face to face, do not contact the victim. And he did again and again. This isn't confusion. This is defiance.
Is Bill Zerp here, Your Honor? Because I'd like him to speak as well. We talked for about an hour and a half, and I really appreciate the time he's given. This was probably not the time to take this much time. I regret everything that I have done to participate in these packages that I sent. Leaving the state, no excuses, and then contacting Ms. Stroll, whether bewildered or not. There comes a time when things get this complicated that you just have to leave them go. And it's time I'm going to do that.
All right, thank you, sir. And Mr. Walburn, any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No, Your Honor.
Anything that you want the court to consider?
Just reviewed the report. Please consider the victim's statement. We've reviewed the recommendation. It absolutely seems appropriate. It seems even more appropriate after listening to that.
Mr. Zerp, Mr. Tesla wanted to hear your thoughts. What do you think?
Well, I'm not hearing anything new today. Did spend way more time with Mr. Tesla than I normally do. And I also talked to Ms. Sylvia a couple times. You know, in all my years, I think I'm used to seeing the pattern of people's decisions being negatively affected by drugs and alcohol. That doesn't appear to be the case here. I think a lot of Mr. Tesla, and he's even admitted this now, a lot of his decisions, including his bad decisions, are driven by his emotions, which is also a bad combination. And he's even admitted today that looking back on the situation, especially after hearing testimony from the victim.
Rodney Tesla finally speaks, and it's a masterclass in emotional manipulation. He frames himself as a bewildered victim of circumstance, using words like odd, confusing, and fond to downplay stalking behaviors. He even suggests the victim called him back, as if that somehow absolves his repeated, unsolicited contact. Let's be real, this isn't remorse, it's rationalization. He mentions piano lamps and coffee cups like we're discussing a breakup, not felony stalking. His statement dances around accountability while dripping with entitlement. The pattern here? When things don't go his way, Tesla makes his feelings the center of the story, no matter who gets hurt. The process
That he should have used better judgment. And he and I talked about that extensively. That there were a lot of warning signs throughout his relationship with the victim and now this woman in Indiana. And even while he was on probation, he continued to let his emotions and his feelings drive his decisions, which led him to violate his probation. So I was not here when he entered his plea. I scored his guidelines at 0 to 13. and I believe Ms. Frisbee did, and I believe the prosecutor did initially too. Because that's a straddle cell, it got sent to Lansing to the sentencing specialist, and the recommendation came back as a prison recommendation. So that's how that recommendation ended up in pre-sentence investigation. At 62 years old, with no real prior criminal record prior to this, I can't say with absolute certainty that he's a good candidate for prison. But under the circumstances, being aggravated stalking, he was advised at the time of his initial sentence in 2023 that he could not have any contact with Ms. Kroll for the entire 5 years that he was on probation. Somebody from my office did do an orientation with him at the jail and had him review those conditions and sign it. And he served a jail sentence. After he got out of jail, he did transfer to Kent County. And it wouldn't be uncommon for them not to sit down with him, go over those conditions again when he transferred there, but it's also not their obligation to do that. I know the court at the time of his sentencing in 2023 told him under no conditions can you have any contact with Ms. Kroll during the 5 years that you're on probation. I know that happened. And I know that he signed the paperwork, like he was given a copy of it at some point. Somehow along the way, he kind of lost touch with that court order that prohibited him from having contact with Ms. Kroll during the 5 years of his probation. And it appears as though that's what led to his probation violation, which was driven by his emotions. In the middle of all that, he did start a different relationship with a woman in Indiana who came into my office with him at the time of my initial interview with him. And she sat through the entire interview. She knew what she was getting herself into in terms of this aggravated stalking case. And I talked to her about that. She didn't really know Mr. Tesla. They had a very short-term relationship, and I warned her of what, given the circumstances, what she'd be getting herself into. Well, they continue. I believe at one point he had permission to go down there and visit her or live with her, and that all happened through Kent County. So I didn't track the case after he was sentenced, but at some point while he was on probation here, he did travel to Indiana without permission. So there's another probation violation. Fast forward to this case, this plea agreement, I believe, I wasn't here, but my notes indicate that the plea agreement was that he had to plead guilty to the probation violation, which outlined that he had contact with Ms. Kroll and that he left the state without permission. So I believe he did plead guilty to that probation violation, or maybe no contest. And then he also pled guilty or no contest to these new charges, which when you look at the totality of the circumstances, I can understand how these sentencing specialists came up with sentencing guidelines of 5 to 23 months, which is still a straddle cell. So I defer to the court for sentencing in terms of whether this is appropriate for a prison sentence at this point or a jail sentence.
All right, thank you, sir. So we're dealing with two files. The court recognizes that the advisory guidelines on the probation violation case would suggest a sentence between 0 and 9 months. The courts can exercise my discretion sentence consistent with the advisory guidelines. And would be the sentence of the court that this defendant served 9 months in the Laredo County Jail. I'll give him credit for the 211 days that he served so far. The court's going to discharge him unsuccessfully from probation on that file. Then turning to the new stalking charge, which is 2413537, court recognizes that the advisory guidelines would suggest a sentence between 5 and 23 months. The courts can exercise my discretion, sentence consistent with the plea agreement, consistent with the advisory guidelines. It'd be the sentence of the court that this defendant served 23 months on the minimum to a maximum of 5 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. There's a $68 state cost assessment, $130 crime victims.
Prosecutor doesn't mince words. This isn't just a violation. It's a pattern. Tesla let his emotions guide him into breaking the law again and again. What's chilling is that this pattern unfolded during probation. Think about that. Even under court supervision, he couldn't resist contacting the very person he was legally forbidden to approach. And it's not just one woman. There's a second victim in Indiana. The prosecutor describes Tesla's behavior not as drug-fueled chaos, but emotionally driven obsession. And that's exactly what makes him dangerous. This is a man out of control. It's a man who believes he's in control of everyone else.
Fund thief. So, Mr. Tesla, there's some peculiar personality types that the court runs across. Stalkers are in that category, that they usually seem to come across very nice, kind of educated. They're always very contrite when they come into court. And when they come to court, it seems like, oh, in hindsight, I see how this all could have been done. But it's a pattern of behavior that is irresistible impulse to contact people that you know full well you're not supposed to have. You know, the consequences be damned. You want what you want. And that's why the legislature determined that aggravated stalking is a very serious thing. It's right up there with criminal sexual conduct that has a mandatory 5 years probation.
Boom. The judge drops the gavel. 9 months of probation violation, followed by up to 5 years for the stalking charge. But it's not just a sentence, it's the commentary. The judge calls Tesla's type irresistible. Not in a romantic sense, but in the legal sense. A stalker driven by impulse, incapable of letting go. The chilling part? Tesla knows the rules. He's educated, articulate, charming. But none of that stopped him from violating a no-contact order immediately after jail release. When the judge says, "You want what you want," it's a brutal truth. And now, Tesla gets what he never wanted, prison time.
For this reason, because stalkers are stalkers, they just can't leave their victims alone. Same victim, both cases, same result, both cases. You don't get the picture, and that's why you're going to prison. You do have the right to make application for leave to appear in the consent to an court attorney. The court appointed attorney represents you on appeal. The request for lawyer will be filed with the court within 42 days. The court will direct financial assessments will be collected through the inmate account.
Let's pause and decode what just happened. The aggravated stalking charge alone carries a mandatory 5-year probation because lawmakers recognize how dangerous stalking can be. It's not about broken hearts. It's about broken boundaries, and Tesla shattered every one of them. The judge compares this crime to criminal sexual conduct. Not to exaggerate, but to underscore how intimate and terrifying stalking can feel. It's the psychological toll, the creeping fear, the never-ending second-guessing. This isn't just a legal win. It's a rare moment where the system truly sided with the victim, and you could feel the weight of that victory in the silence after sentencing.
And parole process.
This case wasn't just about a man violating probation. It was about a system finally drawing a line in the sand. Rodney Tesla had every chance to walk the straight path, and he chose manipulation, intimidation, and obsession. The judge saw through the charm. The victim stood firm, and justice, at least this time, was served. But here's the real question. Do you think the sentence was enough? Or should stalking carry harsher penalties when repeat violations are involved? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if this case shook you like it shook us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this breakdown. We've got more real courtroom drama, shocking outcomes, and bold justice coming your way.